Hello, welcome to part 1 of 2 videos for the Tooele County Disaster Recovery Plan. While this is an overview of the plan, it is encouraged that you read the entire plan because there is a lot of relevant information that is needed before and during recovery of a disaster. These videos are meant to give you a high-level understanding of the disaster recovery plan, its purpose, its functions, roles and responsibilities, and best practices. This is not a replacement for reading and understanding what is in the plan. Hopefully, this will be a jumping-off point for you to help you want to know more so you can help our communities recover better and be more resilient in the process. This video will go as follows. We will talk about the 4 basic plans, the SEMP, the PDM, the COOP, and the DRP, and why each of them are needed and when they are needed. We will talk about emergency management and their role in disaster recovery, and then we will dive into the basic parts of the disaster recovery plan. We will cover the purpose, the vision, and goals. In the next video, the phases of disaster recovery will be discussed, and what ESFs are and what RSFs are. Then we will talk about the roles and responsibilities and all agencies and organizations who may be involved in disaster recovery. Then we will talk specifically about the groups that will tie into disaster recovery, such as the Long-Term Recovery Policy Group, the Long-Term Recovery Manager, the Long-Term Recovery Group, and its support groups. Then we will talk about finance and recommendations and best practices. And lastly, documentation, and discuss where you can find information on how to read the Tooele County Disaster Recovery Plan and how you can find resources to make a disaster recovery action plan when the time is needed. The county has 4 main plans that all other plans refer to. These plans are the parent plans. The first one is the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, or the SEMP. This plan is the plan that basically covers what disasters may happen and what the role of government and emergency management have to play in a disaster and what the emergency support functions are and how government supports response during disasters and all major emergencies, and the organizational and planning structure that is used to accomplish the goals and objectives set forth to take care of the issues that arise during significant events within the county. This plan isn't comprehensive in that it is specific to certain types of disasters or certain departments. It is comprehensive in that it gives guidance about what the expectations are for those in leadership roles and their supporting agencies and organizations, and how to facilitate that coordination across all the phases of mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. It discusses an all-hazards approach for the whole community, including those with access and functional needs, and our business and rural areas. The SEMP guides all other plans. The next plan is the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Plan. This is a plan that communities work on to hopefully mitigate known risk spots. This plan is about doing activities while the skies are blue, and changes towards improving and mitigating may be made in those areas that are known to be trouble areas within jurisdictions. The Disaster Recovery Plan is also a plan that guides all other plans because leaders of every community and the families in every neighborhood should always be thinking ahead to recover no matter what happens, because that is the end goal of every event. Recovery to a new normal, recovery to a resilient state of capacity, recovery to better than what was before. This is the objective of what the plan we are talking about today is. The next plan is the COOP plan, which is the Continuity of Operations Plan. This plan states what happens when leadership is unavailable and who is given authority to make sure proper actions still take place. Each department should have their own. Each city should have their own, and the county also has its own. And each department, agency, organization, and business should have their own COOP plan too. And based on that plan of who is available is how the SEMP and recovery plan are implemented. Because they are all pretty important, they are all quite long and extensive. They all have some major points that need to be covered. It is not because it's a government thing. It is because having a guidance plan means there are policies and procedures to follow in circumstances that don't follow normal everyday happenings. Disasters and major emergencies always tip the scales of something, and having guidance written in a plan helps leaders respond correctly and suitably for the needs and situations of the communities. There is a video that discusses the SEMP in a high-level way, as well as the annexes that go along with it to assist leaders, agencies, and organizations in their roles and responsibilities. You can access it on the Tooele County Emergency Management YouTube channel. Okay, let's talk about emergency management just for a moment. A government, whether it is a city government or a county government or a state or federal government, has a responsibility to help its people stay safe in a myriad of ways. There are health ways and public safety ways, and judicially and environmental, such as the roads and other ways. Well, because of this, it needs a department that thinks about when the regular things go wrong, like during disasters or major emergencies. It needs a department that helps people understand what they can do for themselves to prepare for emergencies and disasters. It also helps the government know what it needs to do to help protect and mitigate against risks. That government also relies on this department to set up frameworks to help them through the situations that will come up. This department is not in charge of the policies and getting a community up to a recovered state. It is in charge of finding the right resources and working with the right partners to help communities get back to that recovered state. It is the leaders and entities of the communities that decide how the community is going to recover. The Emergency Management Department is the support to help in the process of recovery. Emergency management helps with training and planning so that a community can be better prepared to handle emergencies and disasters. But they do not handle the emergency or disaster. Emergency management works with the emergency support functions and the policy and planning groups of the governments, both county and city. Emergency management principles are comprehensive. Emergency management considers and takes into account all hazards, all phases, all stakeholders, and all impacts relevant to disasters. The first principle is progressive. Emergency management must anticipate future disasters and take preventative and preparatory measures to build disaster-resistant and disaster-resilient communities with the guidance and help of the cities and counties they work with. Next principle is risk-driven. Emergency managers use sound risk management principles, hazard identification, risk analysis, and impact analysis in assigning priorities and resources. Integrated is the next principle. It ensures unity of effort among all levels of government and all elements of a community. Emergency management is committed to making sure that all people are considered and a whole community approach in planning is utilized. Next principle is collaborative. Emergency managers must create and sustain broad and sincere relationships among individuals, government leaders, departments, and organizations to encourage trust, advocate a team atmosphere, build consensus, and facilitate communication. The coordination principle involves emergency management's main goal, which is to synchronize the activities of all relevant stakeholders to achieve a common purpose of response and recovery and planning and preparedness through mitigation efforts and other activities. Next is flexible. Emergency management must stay creative and use innovative approaches in solving disaster challenges because it is ever-changing and there are ever-changing leadership within communities and ever-changing policies and law. The last principle is professional. Emergency managers value a science and knowledge-based approach based on education, training, experience, ethical practice, public stewardship, and continuous improvement through exercises and technology. Emergency managers have to stay on top of the latest information on weather, geology, cybersecurity, intelligence, fire science, political science, risk management, health and social sciences, and many more areas too many to name. All this being said is why recovery is so important. Emergency management helps in planning for resources and possible risks and mitigation needs, and the governments and communities decide the direction recovery should go. Emergency management doesn't even run the response. They support the incident through the Emergency Operations Center. They are not tactical. They work strategically and with the leaders to best coordinate the efforts of needed resources for whatever event has happened. So, recovery is always on the minds of emergency management and should always be on your mind too, because it is your responsibility to help the community to recover. It is your responsibility to help guide the process of recovery. Emergency management can assist with frameworks and in planning, but is not the official decision makers. Emergency management supports every emergency support function throughout all of the emergency management phases. It is like the scaffolding, not the building itself, that keeps things from falling while the building is being put back together. So let's talk about the recovery plan's details now. The purpose of the plan is it provides an overview of how Tooele County as an organization will prepare for and coordinate recovery from a disaster in collaboration with partner jurisdictions and agencies, utilizing the whole community planning approach. This plan is a guide for Tooele County government and other cooperating entities and agencies that have significant responsibilities associated with recovery from a disaster. This ensures that an affected community is ready to undertake an effective, efficient, and organized recovery process and does not miss opportunities to rebuild in a fiscally responsible, sustainable, and resilient way. The Tooele County Disaster Recovery Plan, DRP, identifies the core activities necessary for successfully implementing the recovery process. The DRP utilizes an all-hazards approach, which works in consort with the Tooele County Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, or CEMP. These core activities can be categorized under the recovery support functions: community recovery planning and capacity building, economic redevelopment, health and social services, housing, infrastructure, natural and cultural resources, safety and security, organizations active in disasters, and volunteer and donations management. The plan also establishes the roles and responsibilities of stakeholders in the recovery process, both pre- and post-disaster. The vision. Following a disaster is Tooele County will maintain local control over post-disaster recovery and redevelopment operations. During this process, the county will seek state, federal, nonprofit, and private sector support as needed. The county will incorporate a whole community approach, partnering with community leaders to restore essential functions, rebuild lives, revitalize impacted sectors, and attain self-sufficiency, sustainability, and resilience for the county, its residents, and businesses. The objectives are planning, by engaging the whole community in the development of executable, strategic, operational, and community-based approaches to meet defined objectives. Objective 2 is public information, delivering coordinated, prompt, reliable, and actionable information to the community in a way that meets the needs of the whole community and relays information regarding recovery, including assistance available, long-term impacts, and monitoring programs. The third objective is operational coordination. It will establish and maintain a unified and coordinated operational structure and processes that integrates critical stakeholders, provides a path and timeline to achieve recovery objectives, and uses appropriate federal, state, local, and non-governmental assistance and resources. Fourth is economic recovery. This objective returns economic and business activities, including food and agriculture, to a healthy state and develop new business and employment opportunities that will result in a sustainable and economically viable community. Fifth is health and social services. It is to restore and improve health and social services networks and promote the resilience, independence, health, including behavioral health, and well-being of the whole community. Sixth is housing. The objective is to implement housing solutions, short, intermediate, and long-term, effectively supporting the needs of the whole community and contributing to its sustainability and resilience. Seventh is infrastructure. This objective hopes to restore critical infrastructure functions, minimize health and safety threats, and efficiently revitalize systems and services to support a viable, resilient community. Eighth is natural and cultural resources. Restoring and protecting natural and cultural resources and historic properties through appropriate planning, mitigation, response, and recovery actions. Planning with this objective in mind will preserve, conserve, rehabilitate, and restore resources consistent with post-disaster community priorities and best practices and in compliance with appropriate environmental and historical preservation laws and executive orders. Last is volunteer organizations active in disasters and volunteer and donations management. This objective hopes to restore and improve the provision of community-based, faith-based, and volunteer services to the community to meet unmet community needs created by or exacerbated by the disaster and detailed and consistent with their statutory and constitutional obligations of office. The objectives are not specific to actual pieces of infrastructure, resource allocation, or policy development. They are intended to help guide real-world decisions in the wake of a disaster and are directly aligned with the national preparedness goal. There are pre-disaster goals and post-disaster goals. We won't go into detail about all of them, but here are just a few. The pre-disaster ones are: be prepared and proactive. Coordinate with local jurisdictions. Establish and maintain the county's leadership role. Leverage existing relationships with private and nonprofit sectors. Promote legitimacy and credibility. Focus on fairness. Build on existing deliberative plans and asset identification and prioritization, and ensure sufficient financial reserves. The post-disaster goals are: provide effective command and coordination, maximize funding opportunities, promote mitigation and foster resilient redevelopment and construction, maintain and enhance the county's economic base, sustain social and human services, public safety, and health services, provide and/or ensure quality housing and sustain lifelines and restore infrastructure and public facilities. The FEMA long-term community recovery planning process encompasses 7 principles that are action-oriented in supporting existing community planning efforts. They include planning that is community-driven, based on public involvement, locally controlled, project-oriented, incorporates mitigation approaches and techniques, provides partnership among local agencies, jurisdictions, officials, and the state and federal government, and is focused on projects that most contribute to community recovery from the disaster. These principles are the reason for these goals. These goals guide how recovery can look. Let's talk about a bit of what the timeline of recovery is. There are phases to recovery. There is pre-disaster planning, then short and intermediate recovery, then there is long-term recovery. In this graphic, you will see that it's pretty vague on the time, but it could be a very long time. You can see that recovery though starts right in the planning stage and goes into the response phase as recovery is the goal. But there are different things that must be taken care of at different times and in different ways by different entities. And different resources are needed for different tasks. And sometimes those resources aren't even available right away. During the pre-disaster recovery planning or preparedness phase, Tooele County will work with community leaders to establish priorities, identify weaknesses, and create a common platform to guide recovery decisions and activities. During response, immediate needs are addressed, as well as life safety, incident management, and protection of people and property. Short-term recovery concerns involve managing and containing immediate impacts of the event on community systems and beginning to return these systems to operational conditions. Intermediate-term recovery concerns include facilitating re-entry after evacuation, reuniting families within the community, returning critical infrastructure, and essential government or commercial services to a functional state. Examples of short-term recovery activities include providing mass care, including sheltering, food, water, and other essential commodities for those displaced by the incident, providing disability-related assistance, functional needs support services, conducting rapid needs assessments, identifying the functional status of critical infrastructure, essential facilities, and vulnerable at-risk facilities, and conducting initial damage assessments of homes, businesses, critical infrastructure, and essential services, and ensuring that critical infrastructure priorities are identified and incorporated into recovery planning, and identifying, anticipating, and mitigating cascading impacts and residual risk. The next activities are emergency debris removal from county right-of-way, the dissemination of emergency instructions and information to the public, establishing case management and behavioral health services to those impacted by the disaster, reconnecting displaced persons with essential health and social services, implementation of a process for assisting with the coordination of spontaneous unaffiliated volunteers, and develop an implementation of a process for managing undesignated donations, possibly including collection and distribution facilities and a multi-agency warehouse, rescue and emergency care for pets and companion animals, and staffing and management of multi-agency recovery centers called a MARC to provide a single location for people needing information and assistance. Phase 3 is long-term recovery and redevelopment. During the long-term recovery and redevelopment process, it is important for communities to understand that it is not possible to return to a normal state. Conditions following a catastrophic event will leave lasting impacts on the community and its citizens. For this reason, the goal of long-term recovery and redevelopment is to return to a new normal after a disaster or emergency, including restoring economic activity and rebuilding facilities and housing. Long-term recovery can last several months to years. It is important to note that this phase is driven by local government at the direction of community leadership. Long-term recovery and redevelopment must be guided with a vision of sustainability and increased community resilience to decrease the community's future vulnerability. Accordingly, this process will take years and should be ever-changing to accommodate new ideas and best practices. This phase of recovery may address such issues as cost recovery and reimbursement, revitalization of the impacted area, rebuilding damaged or destroyed structures and infrastructure, and a move to self-sufficiency, sustainability, and resilience. Examples of long-term recovery activities include forming of a long-term recovery committee that is composed of government, NGOs, and community organizations having a role to play in disaster recovery operations, and ensuring the right people are included within the long-term recovery committee and are supported by their home agency or organization. The next activity is developing a post-disaster long-term recovery strategy that considers impacts, unmet needs, and establishes a vision, identifies goals and metrics, and defines hazard mitigation and resilience priorities, and engaging the impacted community in the long-term recovery strategy process to educate and inform and build buy-in and support. Next activity are repairing major transportation systems and roads. Continuing to provide case management and behavioral health services to those impacted by the disaster, and hiring of temporary, full-time, and part-time positions to support disaster response and recovery needs. This may include specialized positions, subject matter experts, and non-specialized positions to augment county staff, and monitoring the health, safety, and recovery issues caused by debris and implementing removal or handling strategies as appropriate. Another activity is planning for long-term and/or permanent housing solutions and implementing cost accounting procedures for activities and actions relating to the response and recovery to the incident, and coordinating project worksheets initiated under FEMA's Public Assistance Program, and completing assessments of natural resources and developing plans for long-term environmental resource recovery. Last is addressing recovery needs across all sectors of the economy and community, including determining long-term human needs issues and service strategies, continuing to collect information on progress, duration, and impacts to county residents, supporting public, private, and community partnerships to strengthen recovery efforts. The recovery process is best described as a sequence of interdependent and often concurrent activities that progressively advance a community towards a successful recovery. Short-term recovery operations begin shortly after the incident begins and are typically managed through the emergency support function. As the incident evolves, it is not uncommon for both ESF and RSF functions to overlap for a period. The leads of the respective groups must work together to ensure coordinated efforts toward a successful recovery. It is imperative that coordination occurs across all levels of government, private sector, NGOs, and community organizations that play vital roles in recovery for the community. For just a moment, we need to emphasize a very important process that helps in response and recovery. The disaster declaration process is an essential step in accessing response and recovery resources outside the county. Municipal and county agencies coordinate a request for a disaster declaration when the disaster or emergency requires capabilities or resources from outside the county. The EOC Finance and Administration section, in coordination with the EOC Planning section and County Chief Financial Officer, CFO, is responsible for collecting and submitting documentation verifying that the impacts to the county meet the economic threshold for a disaster declaration. More information about the disaster declaration process can be found in the SEMP base plan, Concept of Operations. The EOC coordinates with municipal, state, federal, and private entities to implement response operations and request resources when municipal and county capacities are constrained. Response operations for an event likely requires coordination with entities outside the county. Synchronizing response activities is essential for aligning efforts, leveraging resources, and receiving technical assistance. The EOC coordinates with municipal, state, federal, and private entities to implement response operations and request resources when county capacities are constrained. Emergency management and the EOC may carry on the coordination of resources, but it is not their primary role in the long-term recovery. Emergency management and the EOC support the Long-Term Recovery Committee and Policy Group. They have a wealth of knowledge and resources and partners, and it is a best practice to utilize emergency management, but ultimately the burden rests upon the local and county governments who have the long-term recovery committees. Please watch the next video to learn about recovery operations.